Thursday night, getting things kicked off. Let's make sure we have audio, and then I'm actually going to hit record, because I didn't do that last time. We got that going. Let's see who we got in the house this evening. We have Mr. Voss, Carl Becker, Leahy, Simon Carter. What we got here? Commenting. Hello. Hello. Cool. And we got some people over on Facebook kicking up. I got the Facebook camera working again. Last week was giving me trouble. Turned out it was an update that was needed on my browser. So we got that all set. Wesley, good. You can hear me. Awesome. Yep, Kaylee's in the house as well. And let's see the Facebook. Not letting me see the feed on Facebook. Let's try. That's weird. Oh, there we go. Cool. Alright. Nice. Alright, so, let's see. You got Gary. What's going on? A little dry tonight. Water. Gay Dog Cody, what's going on? And let's see, we got Kurt over on Facebook. And let's see how this goes. Alright, so this is what we're painting tonight. I'm going to bring up the reference image. And then put that on. I'm going to be doing that. And let's bring up our... We're going to be doing... Oh, always forget. It's opposite. So we're going to be doing this one here. That's where we left off last week. So for those just joining, if you weren't on last week, this was the octopus painting I started, which I started with, the paper cut kind of technique. And this is an image I came up with by kind of bashing a few different photos together, and then using, it was like these tentacles for an octopus image, and then this head was from the Tattoo Smart octopus brush set you can get for Procreate, and then the tentacles are all separate. You can just kind of put them in place wherever you want them, which is really cool, and I came up with this image, and now we're going to start painting it. So last week, this is how far we got. Which wasn't bad. It was a little ambitious. I didn't think I was going to have to go to a full second feed, but I did, and then I planned on doing some videos, like some daytime videos after that. But as most of you know from Facebook feed, I broke 2 toes on my foot, and that happened on Saturday evening. So that pretty much left me in my living room couch for a few days during the work week, because I couldn't really go in the shop, and it was kind of a bear to get up here to the studio where I paint. So I just took it easy and did a bunch of drawings for a bike I'm currently working on now, which is a Reaper bagger that I got a whole bunch of really cool images drawn up, so that's going to be coming up soon. So I got my airbrushes all cleaned out, and I don't know who mentioned it. It was on one of the airbrush forums. I got to find it. For cleaning out the fluid nozzle. Yeah, Scott, it was painful. So I cleaned my microns. My airbrush is really good and got everything polished. But these things are really cool. So these are absorbent paper points, and they come down to like a 0.15, 20, 25, 30. These are outstanding for cleaning out the fluid nozzles of a micron, because they're little, basically, just little. No, that one I bent, but they're absorbent paper, and they don't like leave anything behind. So these are great to clean out the fluid nozzles. Absorbent paper points. So I forget what, which Facebook group, because there's so many. Someone mentioned it. Good tip who that was. Thank you very much. These work great. And let's talk about the colors. So same paint. I saved everything from last week. I balled it up and basically went through it today, checked it, mixed it, restrained it, made sure it's all good. So this was the black we were using, which is the illustration black, and it's got a little bit of blue mixed in there. A little bit of the, which blue did I use here? Oh, the ultramarine blue. And then I strained it a few times through my handy dandy strainer. Let's talk about that. Again, I mentioned last week, it's just basically, I think this is a 1/2 inch hole opening fitting, 3/4 inch thread, basically just a piece of plumbing, and it's got tobacco screen. So any tobacco smoke shop of any kind, you can get these, and it just happens to nest perfectly inside. And it fits even better on top. And then I'm just gonna strain the paint in. And I put too much. A little overfilled, but we're good. Let me just clean that up a little bit here. So look, straining the paint's a great idea. We do in the auto body world. You never paint a car ever without straining paint. So why would we put it in a device that's 20 times smaller than a conventional paint gun and expect not to get problems? So strain the paint. And like I said, this is the same paint from last week. I didn't keep it in the gun. And now it's working really nice. My micron's working great. And we're going to get to work on this. So let's see what we got going on. So Mr. Voss, yeah, man, it was painful. The brakes were, technically it's a flare nut, according to Carl Becker. Thank you, sir. I didn't know the technical term, so a flare nut. And then tobacco screens, all you need to make a nice, simple paint strainer. Yeah, so the brake wasn't the bad. It's the missing skin off the toes that actually hurts the most. It still continues to hurt, but you know, we get through. So let's see here. I might actually thin this paint some more and drop the pressure down because I'm really trying to work this one very subtle. So I'm going to add a little bit more reducer. And get this really thin. There we go. I want the paint, so I have to build it a few times. I'm going to keep it really thin to do a lot of these. All this little texture in here. Hey, David. Everyone's doing good. So, yeah. So, there we go. So, now I got nice little control. I even might thin it more. But this is the thing about water-based. So, I thinned it. It got thinner. And I'm saying to myself, you know, I might want it a little bit thinner. But give it time, because water-based sometimes, you know, it takes a few minutes for things to kind of coagulate, you know, just kind of start to really work together. So it'll actually reduce a little bit more as you flow through. So sometimes you'll add it in there and think, and now you're over-reduced. Now you went too far. So give it some time. Work it through the brush. Just remember, what I reduced takes time to get through here, and you know, get all the way through the nozzle. So give it some time. Yeah, it's definitely getting thinner as I work it. And that's good. So I want to separate this tentacle from this one that's kind of coming in. It's going underneath here. So I'm just going to use a little freehand shield like that. I'm going to pick it off the surface a little bit so I get a soft edge. Okay, that's a trick a lot of people don't realize, that if you just pick your stencil up like 1/8 of an inch, You'll still get a crisp edge, but it'll be soft. It won't have a hard, you know, really super hard edge, which is what you don't want. You know, the only thing I got to be careful on this piece is because I kind of photo bashed, some of the drop shadows aren't correct. Like this one here, the shadow should be darker than this, but depending on the light source, top down, it's still catching light from behind it because you know, when I talk about pin light, you talk about sunlight coming down. So, you know, you definitely got to play around with images like this because you're not going from a true photo reference. Oh, so yeah, so the color I mixed here, this is Createx Illustration Black mixed with a little bit of the ultramarine blue just to give it a tint, and then I've just over reduced it and went from there. So that's all I'm doing for this one, and then I did a mixture of ultramarine blue by itself. Is going to be this darker color. Illustration Teal is the lighter one, and then white. And yeah, that's just what I'm using this. Hello, Michael. And this isn't really intended as like a follow along how-to lesson. This is just how I'm painting. Not all these videos are, you know, basically, you know, follow along. Some of it's just me wanting to paint. And when I set it up for like a how-to, then you know I usually have all the things listed out, and I'll have steps and downloads and things like that. But sometimes I just want to paint to paint. Get over here and hit this area. So like in the drawing in this one, there's not, this is where the suction cups would be, but they don't really show them just because the way it is. So I'm ad-libbing them in. Hey honey, how you doing? We can't see what you're pointing at. I think I was talking about all this stuff here. In the photo reference, like this tentacle. In the photo you don't really see the suction cups. But I'm adding them in. A little bit more definition than they have in the photo, in the drawing. We'll do some highlighting and stuff over there with some white. Alright, I want to get this area really defined underneath here. So, saw earlier what I did is I got a cut mat off to the side here, which is the reference holder from Visionaire. Can't really see it as well on camera, but it's right there. And so I can just cut everything off to the side. So what I did is this section. And we'll put that in place. And just start to hit this. And I'm not trying to like put a whole ton of paint here. I'm just trying to put enough to reference it. Because there's no hard edge on Octopus, so I don't want any super crisp edges. I just want to register in where it's going to be, so I can kind of freehand all this in here. This is probably going to be one of the, closest to a realism live feed you're going to see me ever do. Because typically I do everything more stylized and, something that would go on motorcycles and cars, something what I'm more used to doing and enjoy painting that style more than realism. But I kind of wanted to do a semi-real look at Octopus for this. With as much freehand as possible to do something like this fast. I think last week we did like an hour and a half feed.
Yeah, that's about right.
And the one thing about tentacles is they take time. Hello, Warlock! Oh, the next part kind of lines up right here. And again, just a registration. Just to set up their locations. And now I can know exactly where to go. Because like I said, I have one of the full ones in front of me here, which is just the silhouette. So right now I'm going to work on this area here and under here. So you guys can see the photo reference on screen. To this side, right there. An octopus wrapped around a bike tank would be sick. Yeah, I did one a few years back. It was really, really cool. It was a bike for marine biologists, which was really, really cool. You know something? That didn't quite go in the right spot, did it? Oh well. Ad lib. I want to get some random texture in here. Nothing better than a little Mendez texture effect for that. I want to show you guys another trick. It's hard to tell what color you're using. It's black. It's just very over-reduced. And so basically it will start gray, and the more you build, you get to black. I usually do like a 4-coat like takes 4 coats to get to 100% black, but this is more like 5 or 6. But while I got you here, I want to show you another fun trick you can do if you want to do detail without adding paint. So we know about the erasing, which we've done for some textures. So let me let's see if I can zoom in a little bit here. If I could find the remote. Here we go. So check out on the screen there. And then what I'll do is I'm going to just move this down here like that. Okay. So I've done it a few times, so the erasing technique right here. So I'm going to go right here. I'm going to go in and see, I can go in like this and see those highlights coming up. See how it's getting brighter right here? So it's a great technique for bringing highlights, because basically essentially what you're doing is you're erasing the color on top and exposing the layers down below. Okay, so we've done that. You can also do it with eraser sticks like this. And you can get almost a softer blend, or you can blend out some of that those harsh sections from the mechanical eraser, and just do this. So watch, I'm going to brighten up this whole section right here. And I'm going to just cut it in. And this is using the Medea electric erasers, rechargeable. See how I just sharpen that edge up? Now I can use the blunt point of it more flat, and I can soften it. And then I can take the eraser stick and I can smooth that out even more. This only really works well if you paint in very light layers. If you mix your paint very heavy, or a lot of 40-30 or 40-50 in it, and you spray it really thick, you're basically going to scratch through it, okay? But let's talk about another technique. I've showed this before in the past. This is not my original technique. I first saw this done by Corey St. Clair. It's the first time I saw it done live. And told him before I do it on camera, he should talk about it. He did. This was quite a few years ago. So you can do this with water-based. Oh, Jesus. My chair's rolling. Guys. So with water-based, you can use reducer. In this case, I would use the hottest reducer, which is the 40-20, or 90. This is 90% isopropyl alcohol. So I'm just going to put that straight in the airbrush. And if you use insolvent, just use lacquer thinner. And what you can do is you can airbrush highlights and actually push the paint away. So look right here. If I come into here, see how it's just bringing that out? Let's see if I can get something a little harsher down here where it's really dark. You see that? There we go. Let me see if I can switch in to that, and we'll zoom in a little tighter. And I'm losing everything. Here we go. So watch here. I'm gonna move this down again. So now this is just straight isopropyl alcohol. And see what it's doing? It's actually pushing the paint aside. And this gets you a real, when you're doing like creatures and like zombies, I love this for like goo and like blood look like so, because what it does, it doesn't take the paint fully away, it pushes it to the side. Yeah, you could use an air eraser, but they're too. I find them too harsh for this technique. But you can use them. So as again, I'm not using white. I'm just erasing right back down to the board. And see, I'm getting that nice, cool push. I'm going to come to this darker area and do it. See that? It's just another technique. See, you just kind of add that texturing in there, almost ahead of time. Let me go over here and see, over here, and I'll bring up some highlights, as opposed to bringing in white. See, just really subtle. So there's many types of eradication techniques. One, you can use razor blade and do the scratch board technique. You can do the electric eraser. Which works really, really good. Eraser sticks. I like these for smoothing everything out the most because you can really just kind of soft brush it away. And then straight up reducer. And just go in here and eradicate the paint. So look, as opposed to, I just brought that edge out. If I try to do that with white, it would be really harsh. And you get the blue shift, and we all talk about that. I know Steve was talking about that earlier today. But see, it's just a subtle way to do detailing and add in texture. So yeah, straight reducer, 40-20 works great. Now again, if you put a lot of 40-50 or 40-30, it's going to make the paint a lot harder. And it's not going to want to eradicate as fast. And again, the thinner the paint, the more effect. So yeah, I'm going to see if I can bring up this tentacle right around this edge just by eradicating. And that's just isopropyl alcohol. So you're just giving a subtle eradication. And it's pushing that paint to the side so it actually builds up to the edges. It just gives you a really, really cool look. So that was cool. That's just a technique I want to share. Maybe I'll just clip this out about multiple ways of doing paint eradication as opposed to doing white highlights. Hopefully that was new for some of you. Cool. You're working with illustration colors or Wicked, and the same. You get the same effect with both. I'm working with illustration colors. Illustration colors stay a little softer for a little bit longer, but with these erasing effects, you get the same results out of either. The Wicked will be a little bit more hardy, so it'll take a little bit more to do the erasing. All right. Will it work with pushing dye? Yeah. So if you're doing candies, it works really well. Again, you got to paint light layers. If you paint light layers, it's very effective. If you paint heavy layers, it's not as effective, and you end up getting a lot of scratchiness look to it. So just keep that in mind. The more you do it, the more you'll get a feel for it, and you won't have any issues. Will the alcohol trick will work with the hot glue swirly stencil? As far as I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like if you sprayed through it, I wouldn't do that because it wouldn't. You know, you're not. It's not just because it's laying on there. The air is pushing the alcohol into the paint, softening it and pushing it to the side, almost like a flood stroke. So you need that push. So you wouldn't want to like spray through a stencil of any kind with it. It's more of a freehand thing to do. What would your favorite? I don't really have a favorite. I mean, one of my favorites, honestly, is koi. That's why I do so many of them. I just enjoy painting them. But it's not something I ever really do a live feed of because the koi, for me, is my style, my thing. So I think it's important for people, if they're going to do koi or something that they really love, is to develop their own kind of look to it. So you won't really see me do, at least my style koi. Maybe I'll do a more traditional style tattoo koi with less of my kind of style to it. But that's kind of my favorite to paint, realistically. So you're basically pushing the pigment aside, so the thicker the layer of the paint, the darker the edges. Yeah, it's true. But at a certain point, it'll get into gummy, Carl, and it won't even push it. It might push it aside, but it'll be like a super bright spot in the middle. It's, you know, there's a lot of, you got to play with it and kind of get your feel for it. And different the hotness of the reducer or the ice propyl will affect it as well. Different colors affect different. So it's definitely something to play with. Like when I do with House of Color, you know, I use their like really their RU312, which is the really slow reducer, and I can really like get it wet and push it around. Yeah, I've done a koi skull before. I could do a half and half. That could be a cool piece. I'm gonna get the bounce up here a little bit. There's a lot of little nodules up here on his face I want to get. In this painting, we'll take bids tonight because this is going to be done enough tonight where it's not going to go on to a third feed. So if anyone is interested in this one, you can start her up. Really just trying to do all these just put these little lines here based off the photo reference. And I'll go back through and soften them. this will be a good spot for some eradication, actually. Watch, I'll soften this area. I'll just shade it a little bit in here. And then I'll go in with the eradication and kind of push that around. Actually, I'll do some up here in these little nodule areas, because it really makes it almost look like a bubble in the skin. See how what that did up here? It's kind of a little bit off camera. Let me try to bring it down a little bit. Hey, London. So look, I'm just going to push a whole bunch of this paint around here. Just really get it. And closer showing this isn't white, this is just isopropyl alcohol. You can see it just makes a really cool kind of pattern. If I want to like define this edge without fully erasing, it's just a nice way to just softly define edges, especially early on in the painting. And with an organic creature like this, the softer you can keep things, the less hard edge, the better it's going to look. So it's definitely something to play around with. You know, play around with multiple eradication techniques and find something you like. I guess put like 3 little dots in the eye. Yeah, I'm going to put a little bit up here. So I lightly shade it around the eye. And now what I'll do is I'm just going to put a lot of little dots around it. You can see it just makes it look like a lot going on in here. But again, if you did that with white, you'd have to be fighting the shift a little bit, and I don't think it would actually look as good. You have that little dot right inside there. And now I'm going to do the little slit for the pupil. It's going to be right here. Maybe a little wider at the edges. Yeah, that makes it look nice and mean. Yeah, I'm looking forward to how I'm going to finish it too. That same eradication. Yeah, I really want to put some focus on that eye. I want to get it darker right up in here. Really push the back of that. See how this area, just that little bit, you know, when you look at the wide shot, it just has a lot of cool folds going on there. Alright, let's move over and just this tentacle here. So basically, I'm going to darken it for the express purpose of erasing it back, because this tentacle is going to come up this way. And it's going to be darker. And I can paper cut if I choose, like, so I can take this, and let's see, yeah. From here, and I can fold that back and just make sure it's kind of lined up. And just darken that edge. I might actually darken it some more. And then I can erase this back. Now another thing you do is you can soften these up by putting them in reducer and getting the eraser a little wet, and it stays a little bit moist, and that gives you another erasing benefit. Yeah, and what I'm going to do at the end, I mixed up a little bit of the Caribbean blue candy and some candy black, two different mixes. I'm going to do a little bit of wash so he gets a little bit of tint of blue on him and some edges. I'm going to darken these edges up of the blue, and it really should frame it out nicely. Mackay's Graphics, what's going on, man? Thank you for popping in. Hey, my brother John's over on Facebook side. Howdy, sir. So, the one thing about painting Octopus, the more area of tentacle you have exposed, the longer the painting takes. Because it just demands a lot more time. No, I'm not going to candy over the whole thing, but I'm just going to do a little bit of candy tint on the edges, just like the lights coming through the water and giving him a little bit of color. Like, you know, but I'm not going to wash him with candy. I just want him to have a little bit of tint over the top. At least that's what I'm thinking. You know, because basically you're just going to sit here for a long time and do a lot of tedious work. And if I'm going like more cartoony, I can like really make it circular and bold. And, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a little hint of blue. Yeah, I don't want to turn him into a blue ring octopus, and I painted one of those. That would be cool to do a little yellowish tint and then add the ring. That octopus is a different body type. So yeah, they are different body types, so it would look a little different. How's it going, Adam? see how I'm just starting to build, and, you know, they're not like fully circles either, so, you know, you gotta work, basically you paint the shadows around it in this case, and I'm not trying to like paint every little shape, I'm just defining it slowly, and letting it kind of get that nice soft feel, but you can see how it's coming together. And that's why building in soft layers is just have a nicer, you know, you have time to work it when you work in soft layers. And if you make mistakes, they're easier to correct and alter and change. Let's see if I can get this camera moved over here. This is where I really miss my Mevo camera, because you could like pan around the scene, but Mevos you can't direct. I can't do a direct HDMI out. It's just the way they're set up. They're kind of a little lockdown camera. I still have a first gen Mevo if anyone's interested in one. I never use it. But I just love the way this one came up, and just this whole area here just looks really cool. And that's what I kind of wanted to focus on this week especially. And this is a good example of more painting what you see versus what you think you see. Because when I did like Octopus before, you know, I would do you do like the bottom, and it'd have like the suction cup around and a hole here. And then the next one would be the same thing. And it started looking, and that's cool for like tattoo style, like, you know, bike style. But if you do too much, it starts looking really repetitive. So I'm really trying to focus this on to be more like the other one, more true. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sharpen this bottom out, actually. I'm going to mix up some blue. I'm going to bring my blue out. The darker one, I think. And see if we can get him to stick. Oh, it's kind of off the panel. Okay, there we go. I want to get that nice and crisp right there. Right there. This is that ultramarine blue. No, I'm going to finish this tonight. Or it's going to get to the point where, you know, I don't want to add too much more to it on a live feed. It'll get too kind of redundant and repetitive. So look, I'm going to darken the blue down here. And you'll see it'll pop him off the canvas even more. You know, and it lets me kind of shape that lower half. But again, I keep my paint really thin right now. How do we only have 10 lights? Yeah, some of them don't populate till afterwards, so I wouldn't go too much based on the live feed, because everything, these skull magnets today, we've been using them. They're not strong enough to go through my panel for here, but they're used back here to hold up all my pieces and my artwork and things like that. My reference images are all held here. But for this, I need some stronger ones to get through. This is a thick panel. This is an aluminum panel, so to get to the magnet on the back, the steel takes a little bit stronger of a magnet. Starting bid on this, I wouldn't let this go for less than 250 because it's a two-parter. So if anyone's interested, we start there and kind of and go up from there. But if no one's into it for that much, then I would just sooner keep it. This one's got a lot of work, so. And this one, like I said, this was just me painting. I've been wanting to do an octopus for a while because I really enjoy painting them. And I want to kind of push myself to a little bit more of a realism. Not total realism, but just something a little bit more, less toony. So I don't know if that's a bid, official bid London or not. You let us know. And remember, for those bidding, it is my birthday this weekend, so do a little extra love.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. We are off and running with some bidding. And it is Father's Day weekend. So for those ladies here, well, someone who's got a dad who's into green life, this would be a pretty cool one-off gift. But see, it didn't take long to get across there. So now I'm going to mist a little over it. Now watch, I'll go in and I'll do some eradication.
Bid for Mackay's graphics for $275.
Yep, awesome. So now I can go in and just take some away with this. And this is going to really make that kind of gooey feel because it's going to push that paint aside. And I can soften that with some white afterwards as well. And just tone it. Yeah, it can be a little harsh sometimes. That's why you can soften it up, and by, like I said, by working soft, you can go in and really just work things. Do multiple techniques to get different feels. Yeah, I'm just going to let this kind of skate on top and give a little skin texture. See, this is the main focal. Like these side tentacles.
Blue's with 300.
Thank you, Blue. Much appreciated. But see, that I'm using instead of the edge. Like the edge will get me a really sharp edge like that. But if I put down on it, it'll be softer and wider. And now I just want to get this, define this curl here to really, to get that twist, how Octopus Tentacles twist. It's going to get darker under here, which is going to make it look like it comes out more. See how that just, by doing that darkness, it just made that go up inside a little bit better. I'm really trying to, you know, you can see it kind of in the close-up image versus the side shot. It's there's a lot more definition in here, and I think if I bring it some more light, you can kind of see it more.
Black eyes would be good.
So there's a lot of delineation in this piece. It's not, you know, just black. That's the nice thing about really reducing your black and just working it from there and building in soft layers. Took me a long time to learn that. You know, a lot of you know I came from a t-shirt background, and you know, t-shirt was bold, bright, you know, really getting that color in there fast. Took me a long time to break that habit. Alright. That's looking cool. Alright, let's move up into here. So that probably had some of the most tentacles. There's a lot more on this one. I'm good with it. These are more the traditional round. Have a good night, man. Thanks for popping in. Oh, there's, you know what? I gotta get this blue in here. That's not paint. So, that's alright. I can move around pretty well. I got my, like, I can't put shoes on, which is kind of a pain in the butt. But, I got some nice, soft, squishy, like, Adidas pull slippers. You know, like beach sandal things, and those are soft and cushy, and I can get around pretty easy with that. So, not horrible. It twinges every now and again. But, could be worse. But thank you for asking. It's more the skin and the nails that hurts the most, honestly. Because I slid across the concrete and it just tore them up. That's what hurts the most. underwater drop shadows aren't so clear. Like in the outside world, the light be coming down and be hitting, But this tentacle, like back here, is way behind his head. It's still catching light, so it doesn't have to have a full drop shadow from this onto this because it's not really coming directly under it. It could be like 6 inches the other way, so it can be lighter in certain areas. So you gotta definitely keep that in mind when you're doing an animal like this. Yes, exactly. I actually put that in the description. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, no real octopus or harm to the making of this video. Good one, exactly. Yeah, I don't know if you're a fan of that show. PETA actually did a thank you for them not using a real octopus. Separate him. And what I will do, like these tentacles, the back ones, that's where I'll put some of the more blue tint at the end, and that'll let everything kind of push forward and pull back. And the registration's not quite exact on this one. Who's leaving? David, have a good night. Oh no, is Warlock leaving?
Yeah, he said he has to jump off for a bit. If he doesn't get back, have a great night.
Thanks, man. Thanks for posting up the tally. That helps. Like, cause this is all the front side, where there's no tentacle, so it can be a lot softer and smoother. It's not Carl, but actually, in Resident Alien, the Octopus was voiced by what's his name, who was in Firefly with, who played Mal, the captain. That's who voiced the Octopus. On the Resident Alien show. Big fan of Alan Tudyk. Yeah, so here it almost looks like an elephant skin right here. So I'm just going to do some wisps like this. Very soft. Then I'm going to come in and do the eradication. Is your... No, in this one, I usually do purple and the black. But this one, because I'm doing all blue tones, I put blue the ultramarine blue in it. And I might actually go in with some of the black candy, because the black candy has a little purplish tint. And I might do some soft shading with that.
Is there purple in your black?
No, I just answered that. Or is it just...
Phones.
Yeah, probably the phone screen, and the lighting coming in from the side has a slight, like, reddish pink tone, so I don't get all washed out. My skin doesn't turn white. So that's what I have for the side lights. So that's why you can kind of see it when you look at paper. You can see that kind of purplish tone. So it might look a little bit more on screen. Yeah, you know, Honey's right. I never use straight black. So I've talked about this in other paintings. This is that fun point for me, because the part that matters the most, the focal point of the image, is right here. Okay, so that's pretty done and happy. Like, I still have a lot of work to do in here, but I'm happy with it. So I can loosen up and have a little bit more fun here, keep it soft, and then work the focal. And, you know, that's the nice part about doing work like this, because I can kind of bounce around now that the focal's done, and I can start evening out the piece to how much I want to get done. And I can kind of dial everything in. So like, I want it really dark under here now. And that's going to let this push forward. And now I'll go in with that same reducer, isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to push that paint around pretty aggressively, and that's going to give me that nice kind of nice elephant skin wrinkle. Actually, that'll be a cool painting to do at some point, like an elephant head. I've been wanting to do one of those. That's a really cool exercise in texturing and technique.
Yeah, it's still Gene with 375.
Yes, Gene 375 is the current. Again, I haven't used any white really. I used some over here last week, but only 3 people on Facebook. Eric Silverio's over on Facebook. Just popped in. How you doing, man? But if you guys click that link in the description, that'll bring you over to YouTube, where you can get the really high quality video and the multi-cameras and all that fun goodies. And you can see all the shenanigans going on in the comments. So click that link in the description and go over to YouTube. It's much better over there. So look, if I want to put a bunch of little dots in the skin as opposed to doing white, can do that. Flood it really hard. And just get it really looking cool. see. If you add red oxide to the black, yeah, the red oxide or even an orange, you can get rid of the blue shift. Now on a piece like this, I don't mind the blue shift because this painting has blue tone to it, so I wouldn't even bother doing it. But you could if you want it to be a little softer one. The other thing you can use if you don't want to mix it is that new illustration colors Titan Buff is basically a buffer white that really gets rid of the doesn't have a blue shift to it. And the black, yes, so you could do a red oxide to the black. Now, the black doesn't have a blue shift naturally. The black actually, a lot of black tends to go brownish. Some of them go blue-purple, which I like. But yeah, you can definitely add a red oxide or something to your black. And I often do that when I'm doing a piece and whenever it's on. If it's over orange, I add orangey reds to the black. If it's over blues, I do blues. I never use the black straight. I'm always tinting it with something. So it's not so dead. It's not so dead flat, because that's the problem with black. That's why I like the candy black so much, actually. The candy black, in hindsight, I should have started this whole piece in candy black. I think would have been cool. But it does. The candy black definitely has a lot of purple shift to it. Because you can't have a true candy black. You got to make it with color to have a natural shadow black. Thank you, sir. You can proactively prevent blue shift by tinting the black instead of the... No, not really, because it's the white. So you can do this. You can change your shift of how black lays down by obviously tinting it. But if you use straight white on top of black or any color, it shifts blue. It shifts blue because white is titanium dioxide. And the way the pigment lies down, it catches a blue hue to it. So you always have to tint the white that's going on top of something, to either like an orange or an oxide to get rid of the blue shift that white naturally occurs over any color, not just black. I think I'm explaining it right. I don't know. If I'm not, we can give it a go again. Yeah, black always has either... You hear about cars a lot, car colors. Like, you have a blue shift black, a brown shift black, a red shift black, a yellow shift black. Especially in automotive colors, they always have a shift. They're always tinted with something. So, like, European blacks were typically a blue black, like BMW, things like that. They would always have a blue cast when you look at the car in certain sunlights. Whereas a lot of American cars like Chevy and Ford back in the day, Ford's better now, they would have a brown cast to the black when you kind of look through the black. And so that's kind of where some of the terms come. But black itself, like cheap paint blacks usually go like on a muddy brown, that's kind of how the shade area looks to it. So which is why I always, if I'm using that black, I always tint it back to blue because I like it cool. Better blacks, like House of Color black, doesn't really go brown. The older stuff back in the day did a little bit, but it's a much richer black, so it doesn't have that shift. It just depends how the manufacturer uses whatever they're using for their pigments and toners to make their black. Hey JC, how's it going? Thanks for popping in. That's looking kind of cool. Let's I am gonna bring in some white through some stencils and do it. Like there's some white here, and I'm gonna definitely bring in some of that towards the end. But I'm not gonna bother. I'm just gonna get through all this black, and I want to get through all these pieces. And I'll just start tinting it, and I'll just kind of wrap this whole painting up by 10, and then we'll see who's gonna take this puppy home. And the cool thing too is if you get your black just right, if I hold it in one spot, I can actually push the center. The center can turn white, and I can actually get that flood stroke. If you can see that, and I can kind of push it aside and see what it did. It pushed the air pressure, pushed the wet paint to the side, and you got black around the edges, but the center stays open. See right there, I just did it again. This is a flood stroke. When you paint over-reduced enough, you can get that, but it can be prone to spidering, so you got to be careful when you do it. I find solvent, you can do this a lot better. Hypothetically, you could just add the red oxide to your white. Correct. Exactly. You totally can. Red oxide or typically an orange. Yeah. You don't have to. You definitely want to add it before you spray it. Like, you don't want to spray like a color over it. I mean, some people do that, but I like to mix it in. It's not something back in the day I even used to think of. It just, as our craft has progressed and gotten more into fine art and illustration, Drew Blair's been a big part of that, and some other painters, Steve Gibson, they started to understand color theory more than just, you know, how I started by learning just from painting t-shirts, you know. So now a lot of those skills that fine artists learned in like art school, which, you know, most of us didn't go to art school, it just wasn't in the cards for me, and so I never learned all that stuff. But now you're seeing that our craft getting better, just like tattooing. You've seen the quality level of tattoo over the past couple of years has just exploded, and just, you know, it doesn't look like cartoon t-shirt work. Everything's gotten richer and better and stronger and more defined, and you can't get away with shoddy artwork. I don't want to mean shoddy, but, you know, the quality that people are putting out there now, the bar is raised, and so you got to start understanding light sourcing and things like that, and color shift, and how to just paint better. And it's just making the industry better, I think. Yeah, I got a few of Drew's Classroom in a box, and they've been good. They've done really well. Any close to a complementary color. Yeah. So I really want to, I'm going to definitely get a lot more blue around here and there, and I really want to punch out this. And we'll do some water bubbles and stuff in the background towards the very tail end. Doing that blue, it just starts to really... And I want to do some bright white up here, it's like the light's coming down. At the end... So, like, this is where I'm going to start needing some white, because I can't get the Eradication to go through in these areas, so that's where white's going to come into play. But we're getting pretty close, because now I'm just kind of dialing things in. How are we doing on them bids? Where are we at? I think we're still at 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the fire one. So the fire one was good. Someone who works on dark surfaces like me, it's very backwards because I have to work, I can't rely on the canvas color being white to erase and then tint over. But it could definitely be reverse engineered if you paint like me. I think it's a very well done video. It will definitely help with fire. You know, the fire letter one is the one I'm talking about. I'm just used to painting on dark surface, so it was a little bit of a disconnect for me on that video, but I learned a lot where I could adapt the style. Yeah, Drew's color theory is, you know, amazing. It just is. He understands it. He understands how to mix the colors to just really get that look every time. If you struggle with color theory, it's definitely one to take. And look, even as a bike painter who paints on dark surfaces, you know, I have to approach things a little different in most cases, but it really is just a matter of I have to get it, you know, to use his techniques. I have to come into that, get it to that white stage, near white, and then work from there. But man, you learn so much from his techniques. Definitely worth it.
What airbrush are you using today?
So I've been doing this whole thing right now with a Takumi, with the Micron. And this is the one I did where I put the split tip on there from Marissa, which is the only time I've ever kept the tip on while airbrushing is using this, because I can see the needle from the side, which I really like, and you can kind of see it in the close-up shot here. Switch over, so you can see it's just a two-prong tip, like an H&S tip. I actually kept on the whole time, and I never do. So I dig it. I'm actually gonna thin this a little more. Man, I have used about 1/10 of a cup of paint tonight on this whole thing. That's it. And I'm actually gonna spike. So right now I'm gonna spike my reducer with a little 4020, which is the hotter, more automotive grade. But I'm just gonna I don't like using it full. I think it dries way too fast for this type of work. So adding it, kind of kicking the 4011 up, I like that. So I want to get this much thinner. Yeah, you can actually pick the tip dry. I'm not getting any with this. It's so reduced and thin. And what I've done, because I strained it so many times, you don't really get tip dry. So right now my paint's getting super thin. But that's good because I want to keep these last areas really subtle. So now it would probably take me about 6 to 12 passes to get it to black. Yeah, it's a little too thin now. That's alright, I can kind of build and then darken it back up. It's great for doing all little skin textures. And I can do, I can do a little bit. There we go. Nobody on Facebook Live. At least not anymore. Because I can't see the comments. So I don't talk to anyone over there. Just because, yeah, just Facebook's just not the place for live anymore. Yeah, I saw DB Dave there for a second. I saw Dave Monig pop in. My aunt popped in. But I don't see him that easily the way the app works right now. Michael, thank you. That's kind of why I got off, not off Facebook, but it's why I don't focus on it anymore. Which I enjoyed doing it there. I'm actually working, for me, I'm working really low pressure right now. I'm only at 30. Usually I'm at 60, 45 to 60. But as a t-shirt guy, yeah, I got to prefer high pressure. But shoot, I think we should title this in honor of the boys. I think we should title. I think his name was the family was Frank. Like Frank had a family. If I remember right, the octopus was Frank. Maybe we should title this Frank. Save Frank. Yeah, right now I'm at 30. Yeah, automotive, but I started with a t-shirt background. So, you know, even automotive, I paint at like 70 to 80 psi when I'm doing like real fire or like mural work on, because I just move really fast across the surface. So higher pressure compensates for that. So I can keep my paint viscosity really thick and get a really opaque finish right off the gate because I'm working high enough pressure to push that paint through. But the acrylic, the water-based paints reduce, like except for like t-shirt business, they don't like to be pushed at high pressure on metal. They skate too much. Yeah, I really like 40. 40 is kind of my sweet spot. When I'm doing realism, you know, when I'm doing these tight things like this, really subtle, you know, I drop down. Like back in the heyday when I was at the malls painting shirts, we were at sometimes 80 to 100 psi, you know, to do that, you know, that single stroke thick to thin lettering in one pass and move like just run across the shirt really quick. We were really high pressure. I'm going to mist a little on this, and then I come in with some erasing. Yeah, 12 now, never that low. I don't even like it on a gravity feed micron. I don't like being that low. That's pretty much, you're spraying ink to water at that point. Like that type of consistency. Yeah, you know, pressure really comes down to your paint viscosity and where you like it. That's why there's no one air pressure, no one true reduction. It's all subjective to how you want to paint. Yeah, the lettering, it's just fun. I mean, you can, it's like riding a bike. You never really lose it. You know, thick to thin, it's that classic rat tail stroke. You know, so I want to do like a kind of a script S. You just don't lose it. It just becomes second nature. So now I can go back to that eradication. I can finish these kind of suction cups and start going in for some tinting, and we're wrapping this puppy up. So as we're wrapping up, I think the bid's is still at 400. Which is a small painting, but it's a detail painting. This is 9 by 12. Yeah, 9 by 12 I believe what it was size-wise. Yeah, yep, 9 by 12. Obviously going to be cleared and all that stuff. This one's definitely going with a glossy clear. Very few paintings Oh, we got fisheye filter. What's going on, Kenny? Thank you, Kenny, for popping in. Give Kenny some love, some fisheye filter love on screen. There's fisheye filter. Kenny is one of our generous sponsors that helps us show continue on. Steve Lee was talking about it today, you know, the amount of hours that goes into this. Even, like, you know, I started this one last week, so I didn't have a lot of new setup to do this week. But I still probably put 4 hours today, you know, total. Maybe even 5 between 2 hours painting and 3 hours of setup. And then last week, definitely a lot more than that. So, you know, these feeds don't happen in the 2 hour window. So, anyone who's getting online and doing a feed, make sure you support them, show them some love, show them some super chats, some tips, and things like that. You know, give them, you know, they put some downloads up, download them. Helps keep the machine running. Alright, so now we go white. That's the first time. Yeah. Definitely not the first time. And speaking of that, we'll show our other love for the products we use on here. Visionaire, which is this whole workstation I'm using. Yep, and then we got all the rest of the sponsors. Let's bring up. This is an older art tool tablet by Dennis Matheson. Really cool. I'm gonna give a little water love up here. Look at that.
There we go. Is that the right sponsor?
Yes. I want to get it really bright in that center. So it's gonna let that kind of come down here and little micro bubbles popping up here. Love these little guys. And now we're gonna we'll soften some of this up here with the white. I can smooth out. I'm gonna smooth out this area with a little white. And that's just gonna brighten the face up. Thank you, sir. Thanks, Marshall. Yeah, so, you know, my camera stuff is always set up. That's permanently set up, so that helps my feed. But it's, you know, the graphics I set up and I put the nice images and the intros and all that stuff together. And I usually change them each week. And then I mix the paint and get all that stuff ready, get the panel ready. There's a lot to getting a feed ready. My multicam setup, you know, this is permanently set up. It's always done. Yeah, and I'm going to darken the water some more, and that's going to really bring it home. And that's going to happen with the next candies and stuff. Speaking of which, let's do that. So I'm going to take this color here. This is the blue. And darken the sides. And we can use this to kind of keep it clean if I want to get in tight. And just punch that out. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab some really dark blue here. This is Detail Blue Violet. I'm going to add some of this to this. And really darken up those edges and underneath them. See if that really pops them off the page. Yeah, I like that. That's nice. Oh, I'm getting paint spray. There we go. Thanks, Gary. Oh yeah, you have one of my older Octopus skulls, that's right. This is the first one in a long time I painted just a straight octopus. You really want to get it dark under here. The more I darken out here, the more it starts pushing forward. And there's that swirl. You can still see that swirl texture from the original pass with my template, my glue template. Yeah, this isn't even candy yet. I haven't candied yet. This is just still illustration. I just added a little bit of Wicked to the illustration just to get some coverage, but I'm going to add the candy coming up real soon. And that white's going to be able to pop off it more and more. Especially this opaque white, which we'll get in here. Thanks, Wesley. I appreciate that. Yeah, you know, I wanted to kind of give it that like pencil tattoo feel. You know, I didn't want it to look airbrushy or super photorealism. I wanted to just kind of have that look. So thank you for noticing that. I appreciate it. What's that? No, this is not going to be a vector file. You know, this is basically, I did this video to show this is how you do an illustration versus something that's like plotted and, you know, done more of a mass production style. This is how you approach an actual like art piece, and to show you those techniques, and not really to, I didn't want to make this one like a copy paint by number type of thing in a way. It's just more of a lesson in how to do a painting like this versus like a how-to style one. So definitely learn the techniques and why I'm doing things, and that definitely helps out. Little bubbles here. Now we'll get some candy rolling. Okay, so this is candy. Yeah, did not add just more depth by having that background light. So this is Candy Caribbean Blue I'm doing next. And I'm going to be very generous with this. Kaylee, can you grab that, please? My micron just hit the floor. Okay, so it hit the floor. I have my cap on. So let's see. Yay!
Is it fine?
So my Takumi just hit the floor from the top of my bench and it's still working perfect. Glad I put that on there and it didn't even bend the tips. So it's good, I got lucky. Let's put that here. Right? Okay, so this is the Candy Caribbean Blue. So watch. So I'm going to see how I just put a little bit over here, a little bit over that one to push that back. Wash a little bit behind this guy, and it just starts to tint these back tentacles. I'm not really putting much here, just a little bit. A little bit under the head there. Yeah. Yeah, that's not the kind of mic drop you want. I see what you did there. So now I can go in and just put some highlighting with white and just start to bring some of the stuff up. Couple little bubbles here, bubble, bubble, bubble. Yeah, I love the Caribbean Blue. It's such a great color. So now I can just start bringing this out here. Thanks Adam, appreciate it. Catch that light. Start bringing some white highlights in here. 400 is a steal for this. If I was to do this on a bike, cleared, polished, this piece here, this size on a motorcycle tank would be at least, thank you for coming from Brazil, would be at least 800 to 1,000 on a gas tank, without a doubt. So now last 5 minutes. So if anyone's going to do a bid, do it now. If not, this is going to go to London. There's a few people that were just at the edge, so I want to give them a chance to think about it before I fully commit this out. So we'll say 400 going once. $400 going twice. Yeah, I get it. Depending on how next week goes, I might not be doing a feed next week. I gotta see. I got some appointments and a really busy schedule on getting a few bikes done. So this might be it for this week and next. We'll see. And I'll keep everyone posted. Now let's take a little bit of Gerald's texture effects, and we'll just add a couple little things. We're going to call this done. And with that, since no one thrown in a bid, 400 will be the selling price of this for London Paint. Thank you, sir. Always appreciate the support. We'll get this thing cleared up. We're ready to ship out. Sign this puppy, pull the tape, and call this done. Just gonna wash a little blue candy over that. Pull the tape. See how she frames up. Awesome. Really, really happy with that. Let's go to a straight shot. And that is the finished piece. from last week and this week. Thank you all for checking it out. Hope you all have a good Father's Day weekend. And thanks to all the sponsors, everyone for helping out. Everyone for checking it out, comments, sharing. Make sure you share, like. Remember those super chats, guys? Those help me a lot keeping these things going. So we will catch you next time. Make sure you subscribe and hit notifications. And we'll get some more of these going. Have a good night, everyone.